very soon, probably by Tuesday's email, we're going to be able to send you to a link for all of the different episodes in case you've missed one, or you want to send a recording to somebody. We'll have that available. Sanctuary will have its very own YouTube channel. So we are growing and growing in our technological abilities here. All right. Well, it's just a couple minutes after. I think we're in pretty good shape. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for a minute and get the slides up. I will tell you what happens when someone puts their slides up. It kind of forces you into something called a full screen. If you don't want that, you can click your escape button and escape the full screen, which I just did that, not on purpose. And if you want to, you can also change the size of the slide, as well as change the amount of people you want. So you can take the whole chat group and you can slide that over and you can see more faces. Completely up to you, so you can manage your own screen. Now, what I want to share tonight is we are incredibly happy to let you know that Ken is progressing. Tom, if you're on, you want to give a little bit of an update on Ken's health?
Yes, he went to the doctor today at 11 o'clock. His lungs sound better to the doctor. However, she gave him a new prescription to take. He was not tested for the coronavirus today, but she wants to see him back Thursday or Friday of this week and be tested, and she wants to see how the new medication is doing with his pneumonia.
Good deal.
I am going to get tested tomorrow.
Yep. Tom's
And that's really all
yep.
I say.
Good deal, Tom. Thank you. And again, we just always continue to appreciate all your prayers as for Ken's healing and to keeping the rest of us safe, especially Mr. Tom.
Thank you all for your prayers. It's so important.
Absolutely, Tom. So many of you, a few of you are new tonight. I'm going to give you the story here real quickly. Many of you know, and we want to welcome you from all over North America, I think is where we are tonight, but to Sanctuary Online, our latest adventure from Sanctuary in the Woods. Many of you know that our vision at Sanctuary in the Woods was to build a nonprofit retreat center down here just east of Austin, Texas. And it was a place where people could come to get off the road a bit, right? To rest and reflect and reframe and re-engage. And we were well on the way to doing that. Actually, the first quarter of this year, we spent it with lawyers and engineers and getting all the topographical and legal details to fall into place. And then, as with many of you, in March, our lives seemed to change overnight, right? And our board met and we discussed both the restrictions that we suddenly felt, as well as we talked about the opportunities we saw to pivot and to continue to do what we feel called to do. And we asked ourselves, how can we still be Sanctuary? How can we continue to fulfill our desire to offer inspirational and important life-giving programming? And I'll say that a few bottles of water, some mugs of coffee, maybe a bit of wine, and suddenly Sanctuary Online was born. And tonight is our second month. We hope to spend every Tuesday evening with anybody who will come to Sanctuary. And initially we met and we said, what topics might be of interest to our communities? So we asked ourselves, who is our current audience? And who is the wider audience that we wish to serve? And then we asked ourselves, what questions are people asking right now? And that's what guided our decisions around how to fill the calendar with fabulously talented masters of their craft. We've had people on worship, people on change, people on COVID-19. Actually, a paramedic came on and discussed the different cases. And we shared what's happening here at Sanctuary as COVID came to Sanctuary. Anyway, tonight I cannot be more.
Does this bother you? I can put my earplugs on.
Yeah, I'm going to mute a few of you. You can go ahead and put yourself on mute if you like. But tonight we honestly couldn't be more happy to have an amazing man on, Nick Patras. Nick, you are a friend of Sanctuary, a friend of all of us here at Sanctuary, but you're also, you know, a master in your field. And we asked Nick to come on and talk about mental health. knowing that there had been a study just a few weeks ago that said during COVID-19, nearly 1 in 4 North Americans have said that there has been some kind of impact to their mental health, to their emotional state, because of the many restrictions that have been put on us because of the virus. And so we asked Nick to come on, and we had no idea that a week before you came on, Nick, the world, especially from the epicenter of the US, would be literally burning down around us with the what do I want to say, the peaceful protests
Racism.
often during the day, but also the riotous looting and vandalism that's happening in the evenings. And so again, Nick, this makes what you're going to talk about today even more timely, doesn't it?
It does indeed. It does indeed.
So I'm going to do this here. Nick, you are, I'm going to share my screen a moment and just give you your props here, my friend. Look at that. Nick.
That's
Nick,
a picture of me in my younger years.
looking like a DJ, my friend. Anyway, Nick is the director of the Student Counseling Services at Texas A&M University Commerce. He's again, Nick, you're the right man at the right time to come and share with us tonight and to offer both your wisdom and knowledge in this field, as well as really facilitate a conversation. I'm sure there are going to be many questions tonight as we go through the evening's conversation. So I also want to say, Nick, if things get really ramping up and you want to go a little bit long, then people, if you need to drop off at the top of the hour, but if we will go maybe 5 minutes or so over, no harm, no foul. I think the conversation tonight might be very rich, and we want to give you as much space as we can, okay?
Yes, and I really hope that we'll engage people in questions rather than hearing me yammer on. So I welcome questions.
But we'll do that, Nick, is we, Barb and Cheryl and I will monitor the chat room. And again, to all our audience, if things come up and you want to ask Nick a question, go ahead and type that into the chat box and we'll grab those off there. And I'll give Nick one of those really subtle hand and arm signals like this that says, Nick, we've got something great in the chat box. And we'll go ahead and lift your question up to Nick. Before we let you go, Nick, I want to again encourage everybody, if you wouldn't mind, in the chat box, putting your first and last name, your email address, and where you're joining us from tonight, just so we can make sure we send an email out about twice a week sharing who's coming up in the future episodes of Sanctuary Online. So we just want to be able to stay in touch. All right. Other than that, I think everyone has themselves muted, Nick. So it's all yours, my friend. And thank you again so much for being here tonight at Sanctuary Online.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you all. And it's so wonderful to see so many faces that I know and miss so very much from my time at Austin. This is a really unique period of time, and as Joe mentioned, just the intersectionality of sort of what was going on as we prepared to talk about COVID and mental health, and then a week and a few days ago, we witnessed a horrific murder, I will say that, and the aftermath of what's going on. And so this slide has even really changed. Our new normal really is this. We're dealing with great uncertainty, massive amounts of change, and social disconnection all simultaneously. And so for any one of us, that can cause us to feel off, down, depressed, anxious, just off our game. And for someone dealing with some sort of mental health challenge, it certainly intensifies those symptoms. And so that's kind of our new normal. I feel like it's a disruption of whatever our normal was that has been dramatically disrupted. And I want to kind of zero in and start with the notion of a loss of social connection and this quote from a philosopher, William James, we're like islands in the sea, separate on the surface, but connected in the deep. And I believe that about us as a people and people of faith, and many of the ways that we're connected socially. But this notion of social isolation or social distancing has profoundly impacted our social connectedness. That sense of social connection is one of our fundamental human needs, and it impacts our mental health, our physical health, and our longevity. And so that may speak to the way we're feeling about right now. These numbers are already probably incorrect. This is our current reality. Over 106,000 COVID-19 related deaths, 1.83 million confirmed cases, 400,000 folks have recovered. We're dealing with record unemployment that's nearing what it was like in the Great Depression. Businesses closing, we're being forced to stay at home, mass confinement, large gatherings prohibited. So our places of connection are now off limits to us in many cases, other than what we're doing tonight, which is an online version of connecting. And then there are a record number of businesses closing and business failures. So it's an amazing, unique period in our history. And so what does that do to us? How does that impact us? Pandemic particular have an effect on our psychosocial well-being. There are some people that are more impacted, folks who have contracted the disease, those who are at heightened risk, maybe the elderly, someone with a compromised immune system, folks living in a congregate type setting, healthcare workers, first responders, those are all at heightened risk, and therefore their psychosocial well-being may be impacted. Those with pre-existing medical conditions, including psychiatric or substance use problems, and all of this leads to an increased risk for adverse psychosocial or mental health outcomes. And that was just in a recent article in the New England Journal of Medicine. What is mental health anyway? Anybody have any thoughts? I know I'm not in a classroom, so I'm not getting instantaneous feedback, Joe.
Well, and I've seen your slides, Nick, so it's not fair for me to jump in here. But anybody else?
I know, that's true.
On what is your definition of mental health? Oh, now there's your slide, so there's the answer, right? Nick, you're making it really easy.
I wanted to see if other people would have other definitions.
Anybody else?
This is just.
You can go ahead and unmute yourself and share.
This is Jill Sizemore.
Hey, Jill.
Thank you, Jill.
Hey, I think really mental health to me is the balance. It's finding a balance between the stressors, the enjoyments, and the everydayness that can sometimes get away from us, and to find that balance of wellness and wholeness as we exist on a hour-to-hour, day-to-day basis.
I love it. That's beautiful.
You've got one in the chat.
Hi, Nick.
Cindy, mental health is an overall.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
I just said in the chat, Cindy's saying that mental health is an overall well-being of peace. Thanks, Cindy.
That's a great one too.
Nick, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I wish living with someone with this virus that I had a handbook.
Yeah.
What really to be doing? At times, I don't want to tell Ken, but I cry.
Yeah.
Am I doing everything I can for him?
Yeah.
And am I doing everything for myself to keep me safe?
Mm-hmm.
However, I am so thankful that he's not in a hospital in which I could be unable to see him or to talk to him. And, you know, I've been praying for a lot of years and been to a lot of church services, but I'm in constant prayer that I'm doing the correct things and the right things for both of us.
And you're naming so many of the
difficult.
things.
Say that again, Nick.
It's
I
difficult.
said, and Tom, you're naming so many of the things that are impacting folks' mental health. Helping a partner, a friend, a spouse go through the disease, and also the impact to one's own mental health and how you're feeling and how you're managing all of that. And so that's, you are naming some of those things that are.
I think I'm doing okay, but.
Can I speak to that? It's Jane Ann. Tom, as a therapist, I just don't think there is such a thing as right. I think you're doing what God has asked you to do. You're doing it with a servant heart. You're doing it in as balanced a way as you can, prayerfully, spiritually, worshipfully, physically, at his side. I think that is health. And so you cannot take what the situation is personally, because you will have sleepless nights, and you probably do.
Yes.
But I truly don't think there's a right or wrong. It's such an unknown disease, and it's taken the most of the, it's caused the ones of us who are, and I'm a control freak, but it's taken the ones of us that are so liking to be in control and correcting us in a way that there is no such thing. So I just want to commend you, because I don't think there is a real right or wrong. I think you're doing what you've been called to do, and that is your mental health.
Thanks, Jane.
Very well said. Beautifully.
Thank you. And I live with the biggest world's control freak. That's called Ken.
We're going to mute you, Tom, before you say which one of us at Sanctuary that is.
I'm muting. It's Ken.
Oh my goodness. Well, the World Health Organization came up with this definition. Mental health is a state of well-being in which an individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stressors of life, can work productively, and be able to make a contribution to his or her community. And then the opposite of that, poor mental health, is associated with rapid social change, stressful work conditions, gender discrimination, social exclusion, unhealthy lifestyles, physical ill health, and human rights violations. And I would also say what's going on in the United States right now, and what we're witnessing, so that could be certainly added to the list of things that are causing poor mental health. So when I say COVID-19 and mental health, what's the first word? When I say COVID-19, what is the first word that comes to your mind? If you'll just type that into the chat box or the
I'd
message.
say, get away from me.
Yes.
Type it in, folks. What's the first word? Look
Fear.
at these. Loss and
Fear.
fear and scared and fear
Yeah.
and scary and fear.
Scary,
Uncertainty. Death.
isolation,
Stop.
Say that again.
Isolation.
Isolation. Yeah.
Evil.
yes,
Stuck.
Wow.
Uncertainty. Man, thanks everybody. Alone.
Mhm.
Out of control.
out of control.
Oh, wow.
Struggle. Thank you, Janice. Man, loads of consistency there around scary and fear, Nick.
Absolutely. And we're going to touch on that in just a moment. These are some of the word associations that I put up, and many of them were exactly what you all had on your mind: stress, change, isolation, fear, longing for things to be like they were, longing for, let's go back to normal, feeling grief and loss, certainly, transition, panic. You know, there might be people who find opportunity in this period of time, and possibilities. Someone might be feeling invincible too. Someone might be feeling like I'm a survivor. So it could be any number of those things. None are right or wrong. And what I wanted to get to is just really where we are, what the group of us that are on this call tonight, what we're feeling. Obviously, there's been a lot of stress produced because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Not everybody focuses necessarily. We usually focus on the distress, which is the negative side of stress. But I want to talk for just a minute about, I believe it was Cellier, was the physician who coined the phrase eustress, which is that positive stress that we all use that motivates us. It focuses some energy. It's usually short-term in nature, but it allows us to cope with things, to feel excited, and improves performance. Many of those things are associated with maybe sports performance. High-performing teams try to focus their staffs to harness that eustress. But most of us are much more aware of the negative distress, which causes anxiety, concern. It can be short or long term. It's always perceived as being, this is out of my control. I have no control over this. Feels very unpleasant. It decreases our performance, and it can lead, especially if we can't manage it and work to get it back under control, can lead to some mental and physical health problems. I want to touch on, again, what Lily shared with us a couple of weeks ago, because it's absolutely brilliant. The change cycle that she and Ann Salerno created and delivered to the corporate world all around the world. But the whole notion of how what we're going through and the change that COVID-19 has brought about is also the brain science behind it is impacting what we're feeling. And when you look at the first two stages, that's in our most basic part of our brain, the reptilian part of our brain, the fight or flight or flee part of our brain. And it's perfectly normal that we're feeling those feelings of fear and resentment. We're feeling like we're completely, we're out of control. We're very skeptical about things. And we're almost feeling, our behaviors are being paralyzed, which makes perfect sense. As we're getting used to and hopefully adjusting to wearing our face mask, being more distant, being careful who we're with, and making sure we know folks' health conditions, hopefully we're going to move into more of, we're not so much fearful and in protective mode, fight or flight mode, but moving into how are other people doing. My concern, and Lily touched on it ever so briefly, is what happens if people loop around. My hypothesis in the United States right now is you're not even hearing that much talk about COVID-19 with what's going on now around the country. And so are people going to loop back around to stage 1 and stage 2 again, simply because of the nature of what's going on and being re-traumatized by seeing the sight of a man being killed on national TV. And so I just think that this model, sort of superimposing brain science over it, and kind of the 3 areas of our brain, just makes absolutely so much sense. And so I definitely wanted to circle back Lily's conversation a few nights ago. And this is just, I promise you, I made a promise to Joe I wouldn't get into an anatomy lesson, but when you see that purple stem of the brain, that is that stage one, that lower part of the brain is what allows us to run from the dinosaurs years ago, and it's evolved to still help us in moments when we need to be safe. But we want to slowly be able to move up into the other parts of the brain and ultimately get to the frontal cortex where we can really reason through and think through things. And so it's just a nice reminder that it's perfectly natural to freeze up, to be fearful, to worry about, can I survive this? But as we begin to use other parts of our brain, we're going to be able to work through the solutions together. These are obviously not all of the mental health concerns that are going on as it relates to the pandemic, and certainly as it relates to what is happening with the murder. But depression, anxiety, distress, loneliness, grief, and loss. There have been huge spikes in domestic violence, huge spikes in child abuse. Those are the things that people are having to confront, and sometimes having to now confront in isolation. And then those folks who are dealing with pervasive mental health issues, schizophrenia, maybe bipolar disorder that requires medication, things of a more serious nature, they might be navigating that alone. We may not be dealing with that, but we certainly may know someone who is. And so this is for us to raise the level of concern that there are people who are struggling with mental health issues during this pandemic and period of time of social isolation.
Well, Nick, when you and I were speaking about this today, if you can slap back to the slide, we also thought as we check in on people that we love, which is one of the things people are asking each other to do right now, especially this week, to reach out to people and just say, how are you with this, and lend an ear, lend a shoulder, and just engaging in honest, curious conversation. That when we see somebody that might be, it seems to us that they're a little bit off, that we want to check on these things and just kind of ask them, how are they doing at home? How is their relationship with their partner? How are they doing with their kids being home? And really kind of lift that up into a more conscious state, right, for themselves. And if in those conversations we learn that we may need to have some intervention there, that we're a good friend, a good neighbor to people that we love and care about. I thought that was important when you shared that this afternoon.
Absolutely. And we are asked to be in isolation or certainly social distancing. That does not mean we can't be socially connected in other ways. We can't use computers, our cell phones. There are lots of ways for us to continue to check on each other, take care of each other, make sure we're doing okay. And this is just a reminder for all of us to continue to do that and find ways to reach out to people who may not have anyone to check on them and make sure they're doing okay. One of the things that I thought we might do, I usually do it with lots of groups of students, is a couple of things that actually can help with mental health concerns and feelings of being overwhelmed, feelings of being out of control, feelings of I'm not getting any better, or this is never going to change. A simple technique, many of you may already know this, it's called 4-7-8 breathing. But it's merely breathing in through the nose on 4 counts, holding that breath for 7, and then slowly releasing it with a slightly open mouth for 8 counts. So it slows our breathing down. And what it does, going back to geeking out in the brain science, it gets us from the sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight, to the parasympathetic nervous system, and calms our entire body down, which is what we want to do in times of stress and anxiety and tension, all the things that we may be dealing with now. So are y'all willing to try a little breath work tonight?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, let's do some 4-7-8 breathing. First
Nick,
of all,
you want to go ahead and take your slides off. You want to go ahead and stop sharing, and that we'll get to see more people on their screens, I think.
yes.
While we do that,
Yes.
and while we do the guided meditation. Look at that. Look at all those beautiful faces. Thank you.
I see Joe. What I want to just remind people is your 4 counts may be shorter than my 4 counts. Don't feel like you have to track my 4 counts and you feel like you're about to be out of breath. So let your 4 counts be what they need to be. But just think of the 4 as the counts in. So you're bringing air in through the nose, 7 counts of holding it, and then 8 counts of slowly releasing that breath through your mouth, slightly open mouth. Fair enough? If you want to close your eyes so we're not looking at one another, or you can keep your eyes open, whatever is your pleasure. So let's start. 4 counts in. 7 counts of holding. Now 8 counts slowly releasing. And let's do another cycle of that. 4 counts in. 7 counts of holding. 8 counts of releasing. You can do this any place, sitting in your car, sitting in your comfy chair, sitting on the potty, wherever you find private time to be alone. If you find that your body is tensed up, if you find that you don't feel grounded and connected, 4-7-8 breath work is very, very easy to do. And so you can do that as many times a day. Don't continue to do it until you get lightheaded and then fall out of your chair. We don't want that to happen. But what I thought we also might do, this takes a little bit longer, but actually take you all through a guided meditation. Again, the goal here is to help people become more centered, feeling more in control of what's going on in their lives, and knowing that you can also take yourself through a guided meditation. You don't have to have someone. There are tons of great apps you can put on your smartphone or semi-smartphone that will allow you to do the same thing as well. So what I'd like for you to do is get as comfortable as you can wherever you're sitting or standing right now. And if you feel comfortable, close your eyes and picture the place where you feel the most safe and secure, wherever that might be. On a beach, in the mountains, on a favorite trail, at your grandmother's house, wherever is your most sacred, calm, safe space. And just allow yourself to visualize being in that space and begin to breathe slowly through the nose and then slowly release out of your mouth. Just at your own pace, a comfortable breathing pace that's good for you. And kind of settle in and notice that safe surroundings that you're so familiar with. And allow yourself to fully be present in that space. And notice what you smell, what you remember about it. If it's at the beach, how the sand feels warm on your feet. You can hear the waves. And continue to breathe all the while you're picturing this image that's comforting to you. And then with each breath, focus on an area in your body where you're feeling tension. And draw the attention as you breathe in. And then as you exhale, imagine that tension leaving your body. You're surrounded in this place where you feel most comfortable, most safe, most comforted, and you're taking with each breath, focusing on an area of tension in your body. And with your out breath, we're letting that tension go. And so now if your shoulders are extremely tense right now, I'd like for you to breathe in and then focus on that tension in your shoulders and in your upper back. And as you exhale, let that tension go. If you're seated, allow yourself to just more slowly sink into the chair where you're seated. If you're standing, just be comfortable and aware, but again, allow yourself to feel your feet on the floor and feel more and more grounded. And with each breath and each release where you're allowing more and more tension to leave your body, you're noticing how much more light you feel, how much more connected you feel, how much more grounded you feel. And continue to breathe now, focusing on your belly, any tension that you're holding in your belly. Breathe into it. Slowly let that breath out and let that tension go. Again, remember your area where you are, what your safe area, this area that's so comforting and supportive of you. Continue to breathe. Slow rhythmic breathing is calming your nervous system down, allowing all of the tension to leave your body. And as you continue to do so, find any place in your body where you feel tension remaining. Breathe into it. Imagine the breath out is taking that tension out of your body. So just continue to bring your awareness to your safe space, that comforting place for you. Notice that your breath is probably slowed down. If your shoulders were tensed up, they're likely beginning to relax a little bit, or you can at least begin to notice that there's some relaxation of the tension that you were carrying. And the more time you can spend in the breath and using your breath to calm your body down, to feel more grounded, the better you will be. And just as you can, begin to bring your awareness back into the space where you are now, realizing that you've allowed some of that tension to leave your body and that you can use breath and slowing down and finding ways to ground yourself and feel more comfortable in your space to allow some of that tension to leave you and to remain gone. So as you can, bring your awareness back into the room. And I'd be curious what sensations anyone noticed that they would like to share.
Just go ahead and unmute yourself, anybody, and begin the conversation. Thank you so much, Nick.
I had
Darcel?
no idea that I had no idea I was that stressed
Yes.
in my shoulders.
Yes.
Wow, that you were holding that
Amazing.
there unconsciously, Darcel, and you felt it release with the breathing. Thank you.
I did.
Anybody else?
Thank you, Jordy.
I had no idea I had so much stress in my shoulders as well. And as I was breathing, I kept moving my shoulders around and to the right and to the left. And something kind of left my body. And I thank you so much.
Wonderful.
Yeah, just working from home and being in the same place that might be a lot less than ergonomic. It's really important to take that time to meditate and to relax and to let go. Like, you know, your shoulders might be in a weird position. You don't even realize that you're so absorbed with what you're doing. So thank you for
Totally.
that. Very good relaxation.
Totally. Thank you, Jordy.
I realized that my dentist was speaking the truth about clenching, because I never saw it or heard it or felt it, but she can see evidence of the clenching I'm doing, and I felt it. And when I was breathing, it was, I don't know, like my whole side of my face just opened up.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
yeah,
that's
it
great.
was very wonderful. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Nita. Well, some other responses. I can see some smiles on faces. I can see some lightness in your faces out there. Come on and share. Give Nick some love.
This is Jill.
Sure, Jill. Thanks.
I think you know, I'm a chaplain, and this type of thing is so great to have as a good tool. And I think centering on self is so different. And for a second there, I started thinking, do I deserve to use this time on myself?
Wow.
Do I deserve to do this?
Yes.
Do I
Yes.
really have enough time to sit here and do this? Well, yeah, it took what, 5 minutes? So it's a good gift to be able to slow down enough to say, I'm worth it. Sit in your chair for 5 minutes. The world can survive without you for 5 minutes. So thank you for that reminder. I really, really appreciated that.
Well, I'm going to say, Jill, thank you, because I think one of the things you just lifted up is before, I mean, you as a chaplain, for many of us, before we go, maybe call a friend who we know is in some distress, or call it, you know, as we go to extend ourselves to another person, how full we can be if we take 3 or 4 or 5 minutes of breathing, putting ourselves in that safe and happy place before we make that phone call, before we extend ourselves. And now we've got so much more to give away just because we took a few minutes to breathe. Thank you for that, Jill. Thank you for that reminder.
Thank you.
I think it's, regardless of COVID-19, many of us have very, very busy lives, and we forget that we're holding all of that tension in our bodies to the point where we think that's the way our body should feel. And it takes 5 or 10 minutes of breath work to allow, again, the nervous system to relax the body, and I love the notion. Some people feel like that's being selfish, but it's really being self-full. It allows us to fill ourselves so that we can be more available to give to others. And yet we're prone to not do that. We're prone to think we don't have time to do that. Other thoughts? Other sensations you felt?
I bet there's at least one more out there.
No pressure.
No pressure. Mom, how about you? You've seen 91 years of the world. How does that make you feel? You need to unmute yourself. Can't hear you, Mom. Can you unmute? Can you unmute yourself, Mom?
You go, girl.
Hold on here.
Hello.
I'm going to get her. I'm going to try and unmute
I
her.
think lip reading said, I don't know how.
I know that's why she's here. She's our wonderful test case, Mom. And I, for some reason, can't unmute you.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you,
Yes.
Mom. How did that feel for you? A little bit of breathing. Nick's guided meditation. How'd that make you feel?
That breathing was very good. But at my age, I've seen things come and I've seen things go. And the world now worries the dickens out of me.
Yeah.
It just makes me wonder about my grandkids, how they're going to manage.
Yeah.
And we have no answers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that, Mom. I mean, it's been an interesting day. Cheryl and I have been kind of on the verge of tears. I can kind of hear that in your voice, Mom. And Nick, you know, it's a friend of mine today on Facebook. They said it feels like the stressors and the changes are just layering themselves on top of each other and getting heavier and heavier and heavier.
And that's just how you feel, you know, when you go to bed and relax and you think you're going to go to sleep, you start to think. And you think of years ago what things were like. They weren't good, but we didn't know they weren't good. We know now they weren't good. But now we have so much, and it's being taken away from us. And we don't understand. I think that's the problem. We don't understand what's going through the minds of the people today.
Yeah.
There's no way I can't see the end of it, put it that way. I guess that
That's right.
we just can't see what's going to happen.
No.
And at my age, I wonder, you know, will I ever see the end of this? Of course, I'm going to live to be 100, so I might.
So you will, Mom, and you're a good part of making all things better. Mel, I'm seeing you want to comment as well down there in the corner. You have any thoughts on this?
Well, I came skidding in just in time to miss the exercises. But as you talk, I have to give you a story. I clench my teeth, and I finally clenched them too long, and I got TMJ in I couldn't open my mouth. It was lockjaw, and lockjaw for Gary. And it was just horrible for 6 weeks. I've been trying to get my mouth opened enough to get a sandwich in. And now finally, I went to the dentist today, and now I can open my mouth. But I have learned a terrible lesson. And so I'm going to come back to you, Nick, and have you give me a special treat to help me know how to relax.
We will do that, Mel. It's good to see.
Amen.
We're all walking around with so much tension, so much stress, so much angst and anxiety, and you know, I think of breath as being the closest thing, the closest connection between our God, our spirit, and our bodies. And so to practice breath work, to me, seems to be one of the most, it's a clinical thing that I can do when I'm working with clients, but it's also a very spiritual thing that I can do for myself, that we can do for ourselves to relieve some of that, some of the things we have no control over. So many things in this world we have no control over, and we want to have the illusion that we do have some control over so much. But I think we can pause, we can slow our bodies down, we can try to focus on where that tension is and breathe that out of our bodies to be as present as we possibly can be, and to be present to help those people who might be struggling with more serious mental health complications because of COVID, because of the racial tension, because of the just the horrific calamities that we're seeing all around us right now. It's very hard, you know.
You know, Nick, can you guys hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
You first started and you said, go to that safe place. I usually can find that safe place really fast. Now it's harder to find that safe place.
Wow.
And, you know, that was what came to me, was where do I feel safe?
Yeah.
And yeah.
And
You know,
Cheryl, I think
wow.
you brought up something that's important, is we might have to create a new safe place.
Yeah.
What was our safe place may not be safe anymore. That's a very important.
Yeah,
important
earlier in the comments, Ellen mentioned this challenge of being, and she's just moved into a new home, which I'm sure is beautiful and comforting, and she's able to nest, and yet she's missing, you know, being home alone or with her gorgeous kitties, versus that engagement with friends, and just, she said, just missing hugs so much. And sometimes, Cheryl, I think that hug, like a good friend, is that safe place, right? In their arms, feeling that connectedness that, you know, we're all doing air elbow bumps or fist bumps, and it's not the same. It's not the same.
It is so not the same. Yeah.
Nick, if I could say my safe place, can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
I went to the past of Ken and I cooking for all of our friends in our kitchen and just loving on each other and loving on everyone else. And then I went back to my childhood bedroom, which was quite unique, right from our kitchen, right in my tiny little bedroom in upstate New York.
Wow.
And to think that my comfort zone is with my kid and my friends and my family. And that's really all we have in this dang world.
Well, and the beautiful thing about that, yeah, the beautiful thing about that, Tom, and maybe the safe place, Nick, right now isn't actually a place, but it might be a memory, or it might be with people. And the beautiful thing about being human, back to your brain picture, is we can go there, and if we really breathe it in, our mind doesn't really know the difference. You know, our physical body might, but we can go and close our eyes like that, and we can transport ourselves to that safe place. Like Mom says, maybe it was long ago, maybe it was your bedroom tower, maybe it's with somebody. And again, I'm thinking that might be a practice that we have to just execute on until we make that muscle stronger, until some of these restrictions, you know, are lifted over time. But even the discipline of that practice of putting ourselves and our memory into that safe place. And I love what you said, if we checked in with our body, people had tension in their jaws, in their shoulders, in another place, you know, and then you said, breathe into that and release into that. And that helped us with a physical exchange as well. So, man, thank you, Nick.
Yeah.
Dr. Nick, there's a place in me that is the smart part. And every safe place that I would think of, she would pop up and say, oh, no. There's this, oh no, you can't go there because there'll be this. And so I need to quiet her somehow. I need to give her a place to not feel like she needs to have the answer.
And one of the things that I often use in the therapy room is to tell people, are you able to just be curious about why she's saying that versus judging? Because if we move to judgment, that's bringing up all that criticism and giving. If you can just be curious, I wonder what you're trying to teach me here. Wonder what you're trying to show me here, and just be curious about it. It might relax it.
Oh wow, that rises up into my eyes. I feel it. Thank you.
It might just let it might diffuse it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You're most welcome. I want to share as a way to sort of gather some of these thoughts together, most of you probably know who Brene Brown is. She's an amazing instructor of social work in Houston, but she's a superstar as well, and she's just an amazing human being. I've had the great pleasure of hearing her talk a number of times. But this is one of my favorite quotes from her, and hopefully it allows us to pull everything we've been talking about here tonight together, and then we'll open it up for any kind of questions. A deep sense of love and belonging is an irresistible need of all people. We are biologically, cognitively, physically, and spiritually wired to love, to be loved, and to belong. When those needs are not met, we don't function as we were meant to. We break, we fall apart, we numb, we ache, we hurt others, we get sick. And I think that just speaks to what we're going through, where we're not able to be as connected as perhaps we would like to be, or we're having to find new ways of being connected. And so I think it calls us to look out and take care of ourselves and also those around us in unique and different ways until we're able to all be back together and hug one another again. And so with that, I would just say, happy to answer any questions, happy for us to have a dialogue about whatever you have on your mind tonight.
We're getting close to the top of the hour, but we really wanted to make sure that if there were questions or even specific questions, I know in the advertising for you tonight, Nick, I really wanted to share with people who, again, either people that are dealing with mental health issues or have folks in their family who, you know, they may have noticed that this is a more challenging time for them. If there's any questions that you'd like to offer, Nick, again, please unmute yourself, and we're happy to let him go a few minutes over and deal with this. We know it's an important topic.
Can you hear me, Joey?
Sure. Is that Beth? Hi, Beth. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Beth. You know, it's funny. I actually have the most empathy, or the part that's bothering me the most is when I think of friends and family that are on their own. And I have one friend who I invited to join us tonight, but I see she hasn't, who's really struggling. She has mental health issues at the best of times. And she's on her own, and it's very hard to know how to help those people. And I'm just wondering if anybody has any, I mean, there's no magic answer, I know, but it's just, I just feel helpless helping her. I don't know how to do that.
Nick, any suggestions?
I think that is probably one of the greatest struggles. Those of us who are clinicians, much of our work is to allow people the autonomy to come for the help rather than be forced to get help. And yet, as a friend, we want to get people to help. We want to find that help for them. And so I think a great place to start is just, I am concerned for you. I'm noticing this. I've noticed this. If you've seen a change or an inability to care for themselves, and you know, do you have someone that you like to go talk to? Do you have a professional that you already work with? You want to visit your pastor or a friend? Engage them in a dialogue, and encourage them that I am concerned for you. This is what I'm noticing. This is what I'm seeing, and I know you well, and this is what I'm concerned about.
How would that feel, Beth, to talk to someone that honestly and that directly?
Yeah, I've tried that. I mean, I'll just keep trying, right? I'm trying to check in with her every other day, and yeah, I'll just keep encouraging her to get help as needed, or to reach out to people. She has nobody close by to even reach out to. But anyway, thank you. I will continue to reach out to her.
Thanks,
And
Beth.
maybe just that social connection that you're providing is the beginning of help. Just
Well, yeah.
you can't let that exhaust you.
Oh no, I mean, I know firsthand what it's like.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just don't really want anybody even reaching out to
Yeah.
you. But I think she's at the stage still where it's okay to reach out to her. Just feel the words are shallow and not helpful. But I think just I have to remind myself, just hearing from somebody else, that's probably helping her. Thanks.
And I would be remiss as a clinician, you know, obviously if you fear that someone is nearing taking their life, that's a 911 type. I needed to say that, but if it's just someone isn't able to reach out for help, that I'm concerned about, you really would feel better if you would go talk with someone. There are folks out there in community agent. There's lots of different ways to seek help.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Tony and Leanne, I saw a hand raised. Did you have a question for Nick earlier? Or was that just your Zoom room playing with itself?
Nick, I found that asking questions is the best thing, and not having any propositions or sentences. So it's a joke. Do I hear you saying, but really, how are you feeling about that? What are you saying to me? I may be not listening to you enough. I mean, to let them see that you're floundering, and then they don't have to feel bad about their floundering.
Share our humanity with them.
Easy to do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm going to be the first one, Nick, to say how much it's meant to us to have you here. We want to make sure that we're offering programming that really is somewhat urgent, and it's also relevant to the many communities that we have. And to those of you that were here tonight, I also just want to, and I know, Beth, like you said, reach out and invite folks. Many of our churches, families, communities are so overwhelmed that they don't have community gatherings anymore. They don't have book clubs. You know, Beth, I heard the other night we talked, and you are playing cards with two friends, euchre, right, with Zoom, you know. But if people don't have a place to go, or they're used to going to a gathering that's not available right now, please invite them to Sanctuary Online. Honestly, anybody is welcome. We've tried to make the link so that no password, nothing is required. Just come. And if you like, we're going to always send you an email, probably Thursday, Friday after, and maybe Sunday, Monday of what's coming up. We try to make those really easy for you to forward to people and just invite. So that might also be yet another way where it's not maybe just your voice, but you're inviting them to come to a community. And hopefully the different topics we have will be varied enough that some will catch your interest, and you'll say, man, I thought of you, you know, because of this topic that we're having at Sanctuary Online. Come on and come with me, and I'll meet you there, you know. So it's just new ways to do things, right, Nick? You earlier said opportunity. At first, when Sanctuary saw this, and we said to ourselves, how silly to be building a place for folks to gather when we're not sure when folks will be gathering again. And yet, instead of sitting with that negativity, we did turn it into an opportunity and said, you know, how can we serve right now? And honest to God, you people, your lovely faces here, you wouldn't be here had we not said, what is the opportunity in this time of real challenge, and yet this time of how do I reframe it and do the work that Sanctuary asks us all to do? How do I reframe it such that I can live into it, maybe in a new, maybe in an uncomfortable way, and yet maybe ways that, look at these faces. This is making me, it's filling me up tonight to know that so many of you have joined us. And Nick, I want to encourage everyone really briefly to unmute yourself and give Nick the love that we all need, a little bit of applause and thanks. And then you can remute yourselves right away. But come on, unmute, give some love. Becky's giving you some hearts. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mom's giving you some thumbs up. And we got some waves.
Thank you, Nick.
Gracias.
Man.
Thank you, sweet people.
Oh, Nick,
Good to see you
it's
guys.
fantastic. Now don't go off yet. I'm gonna share my screen just a minute and tell you. There's our thank you, Nick slide. I think I got a thank you, Nick slide. There we go. And then I do want to share with you that although this was a deep and important night of conversation, I always say you're not going to want to miss next week. And look at that, my beautiful spouse there with the appropriate sanctuary shirt on, purple in Mexico, black upstairs now, Cheryl. Cheryl, what are you going to do? You are going to be our amazing presenter next week. What are you going to share with these great people?
Well, we're gonna have a bit of fun trying to learn a little bit more about Zoom, because one of the things that I've figured out is if you're on a laptop versus if you're on a phone versus if you're on an iPad, it's all different, you know, and how do you use the features? And so what we're going to do is learn from each other about how to do that, maybe even in little groups. It might be the first time we go into little groups and we do a little bit of a, what do you call it?
One-on-one?
Not one-on-one. Remember when we went and did a scavenger hunt type of thing? Well, I was thinking we might do like a list of things. Say, all right, your team goes in and put together, and let's see how many of these things you can figure out how to do with your group on the iPhone, and let's see on the laptop how many of you guys can figure out how to do these 6 things on the laptop, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of what I have in mind, and I think it'll be kind of fun to figure out those kinds of things. So I hope you guys join. I just want to say, alluding to as well, it is, I mean, it's a huge, huge blessing to see y'all's faces. We miss you so much, and just it's good to see you. So thank you.
Yep, and around Sanctuary, we always say Cheryl is the one who puts the fun in functional. So come and learn some new Zoom skills. There's ways to annotate and draw and stamp and put fun backgrounds on. There's loads of things to do that can make your family meetings and your book clubs, Beth, your card games, even more exciting with using just the 101 level of Zoom. So please come on, join us next Tuesday night. We're here, same Zoom room, same time. Every Tuesday, we're going to be offering programming. And if you have any suggestions of topics you'd like to hear about, or topics you'd like to see us do, or even speakers that might have a fabulous topic or be a master in an area, just email us, chat me up here, and throw it on Facebook. We're open. We want very much to have adjunct faculty, great folks like yourself, Nick, just really bringing us your expertise and your experience and your great love. So, man, we thank you so much. People, did you have a good night at Sanctuary? Thanks so much.
Yay.
Good times, yeah!
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Nick.
Absolutely.
Thank you all so much.
Thanks,
Great.
Ellen, for your
Thank
kitty
you.
cat. Thanks, y'all. You can stay around and chat. I know Cindy
Thanks,
always
everyone.
does. Ellen, where'd your kitty cat go?
Mel, it's good to see you.
Is that a jam, Joe?
Hey, Barb. Cindy.
Yeah.
And ourselves.
Hello.
Good to see you all.
Hello.
Hello.
You as well.
Joby, recording.
Yep. I always forget to turn the recording off, and this way, Cindy, you can knock yourself out and not necessarily be appropriate.
Oh, this is when the smut comes out.
Thank you again, Nick.
Did Tom get off?
Still recording, Cindy, just so you know.